62? Bro, I get that it's Valentine's Day. I get that you're single and you're lonely and you want to have some fun, but 62 times? Bro, you need medical attention.
My new plushie is here. That's right. If you want to get yourself a Mario2's plushie, click the link in the description down below or scan this QR code. You know you want to take me home, right? Let me in.
Today, we're going to be watching the worst Gooner deaths ever. That's right. If you're a Gooner, you better watch out because this could happen to you.
The asphyxiation gooning incident. On June 14, 1994, a 38-year-old man left his small home in Asheville, North Carolina, and telling his family he was going for an evening walk to clear his mind. He often visited a wooded area behind a local park when he wanted privacy, and the route was familiar enough that no one thought much of it. Clad in
I'm calling it now. It was the mountains. The mountains reminded him of something sus, and he just couldn't help himself.
Casual outdoor clothing and carrying a small backpack, he walked into the tree line just before sunset, disappearing into the dense, quiet forest. As daylight faded, he ventured farther off the main path than usual, eventually stopping in a secluded clearing about 50 yards from the trail. He set down his backpack, removed several personal items, and began preparing an arrangement using a rope tied between two sturdy trees. The setup appeared practiced, done with deliberate care, suggesting this was not the first time he had been in this spot or engaged in this ritual. As night
Imagine going to the store and having someone buy these items like the rope, the whatever that other canister was, and you as the cashier just sitting there like, this guy's either going to unalive himself or he's gooning.
Deepened, the man engaged in a sequence that involved controlled pressure and suspended positioning. At some point during the process, however, he shifted his weight incorrectly or misjudged the timing. The rope system, meant to allow controlled release, failed to do so once he lost consciousness. The moment he blacked out, his body became completely unsupported. Without the ability to adjust himself or break free, he remained suspended in a kneeling position, slumped forward and unable to breathe. Hours passed, and the forest remained quiet and undisturbed. The next afternoon, on June 15th, a group of hikers walked along the same trail, taking advantage of the warm weather. About half an hour into the hike, one of them noticed something odd. When they moved closer and saw the unmoving posture of the kneeling
Imagine just going on a hike with your buddies, just having a grand old time, and then you are shown this. Someone who just can't control their urges, just doing weird things, and then they die. Yeah, I'd be traumatized.
figure, they realized something was wrong. They immediately called 911. When paramedics arrived, they confirmed he had been dead for many hours. Investigators recognized the pattern as a classic case of accidental death during a private, high-risk solitary act of gooning. The Goonside incident.
They actually have a whole profile case for this stuff, guys. This is statistical at this point. A statistical goon.
January 8th, 2025, a 27-year-old man named Nautica Malone drove his sedan into the drive-through lane of Bikini Beans Coffee in Tempe, Arizona, just after 7 a.m. He had left home unusually early that morning, according to his family, saying he needed fresh air and a change of scenery. As he approached the service window, a barista preparing for the morning rush noticed him rolling forward at a slow, measured pace. When he reached the window, she greeted him, expecting a routine order. But within seconds, she realized Nautica had no pants on. She pulled out her phone and began recording the encounter, capturing the man's quiet, vacant expression as he sat behind the wheel. The video lasted only a few seconds before the car eased forward and exited the lane. The clip was shared privately at first, circulating among coworkers, but by late afternoon it had been forwarded again and again until someone uploaded it to social media. Within hours, it was widely...
I hate people, bro. Why are you doing this to the poor service workers? Like, man, come on.
Circulating across multiple platforms, gathering captions, jokes, and commentary.
Oh my god, the Goon Lord, bro. The last Gooner. That's crazy.
Over the next 2 days, Malone withdrew from friends and family. According to relatives, he stayed mostly in his room, leaving only briefly to pick up mail or get water. He ignored calls from co-workers, disabled several of his social media accounts, and stopped responding to messages. His brother later told reporters that the shame and public attention seemed to overwhelm him almost instantly. And on the morning...
I'm sorry, but maybe you shouldn't be pulling on your pants in front of service workers, bro. What do you mean the shame and guilt? Yeah, bro, that's what you deserve. You did this to yourself.
Of January 11th, Malone left home quietly. He drove west toward Goodyear, Arizona, taking a long, looping route along the highway, avoiding busier exits. At some point during the drive, he called his brother, but the call went unanswered. When the brother returned the call minutes later, it rang without response. Just after 3 p.m., a passerby walking through a quiet parking area near a small business park noticed a black sedan parked at an odd angle beneath a tree. The engine was off, and the driver inside appeared completely still. The passerby approached slowly and tapped on the window, but there was no movement. Alarmed, they dialed 911 and reported an unresponsive person in a vehicle. Police and paramedics arrived within minutes. After forcing the door open, responders determined Malone had died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, with the estimated time of death several hours earlier. A firearm was recovered inside the vehicle. On his phone, officers found a short message addressed to his family, written earlier that morning, apologizing for the pain he felt he had caused them. The falling Gooner incident.
Well, as sad as that is for that whole situation to happen, at least he apologized because he kind of ruined his entire family name with what he had done. At least he tried to make up for it. Unfortunately, that is very, 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 very sad. May he rest in Goon.
On March 18th, 2011, a 32-year-old man returned to his small Milwaukee studio apartment after a long work shift. He dropped his keys on the counter, turned on his TV for background noise, and headed straight for the bathroom. A few minutes later, he decided he wanted to goon. He brought a small stool from the living room and placed it beside the bathtub. He propped his phone upright against a shampoo bottle, playing a video he wanted to goon to. Based on the coroner's office reconstruction, he climbed onto the small stool so he could goon in a certain position, but the stool wasn't stable on the slippery bathroom tiles. While he was in action, the stool suddenly slid out from under him. He lost his balance instantly. He fell backward, hitting his head hard on the edge of the bathtub, and was knocked unconscious immediately. With no one else in the apartment to help him, he stayed on the floor without ever waking up. When he didn't show up for work the next morning, his co-workers requested a welfare check. The landlord entered the apartment and found the scene unchanged. The phone still
Bro, if you were checking on like a coworker and this is what you walked into, like how would you feel? I know it's sad because these people all died, right? Like the whole death and stuff is very sad, but like I'm just trying to think of a person's perspective of how they get found. Like you see this, they're probably watching like a VTuber or something, and bro is just on the floor, pants down, unconscious, bleeding everywhere, just dead. Like, what do you do at that point? Bro, you worked with this guy with McDonald's or something. Like, bro was making burger patties. Like, how do you the psychological toll on this?
playing, the stool overturned, and the man lying on the bathroom floor where he had fallen. Paramedics were called to the scene and they confirmed he had died from a head injury caused by the fall.
That's awful.
The ladder incident. On June 11th, 2019, a 38-year-old man in rural Oregon carried an aluminum ladder behind his house and placed it against a tall pine tree at the edge of his...
Okay, guys, we need to talk about this. What is up with the obsession with going to the highest place possible to goon? Like, what about that makes it so erotic? Like, I don't understand.
Property. He often climbed the tree to get cell reception, and neighbors later reported that he had a habit of spending long periods alone outdoors. That afternoon, he set up the ladder in a secluded spot and climbed roughly 15 feet up, settling on a sturdy branch. He began engaging in gooning while seated on the branch, believing he was out of sight and in complete solitude. As the minutes passed, he shifted his weight repeatedly, bracing his foot against the tree trunk while using the other to maintain balance. The branch beneath him was stable, but the ladder he had climbed was not properly secured. At some point during his activity, his movement caused the ladder to tilt backward. Startled, he reached instinctively toward it, losing his balance on the branch in the process. Within seconds, he tumbled together with the ladder down the slope beneath the tree, striking the ground chest first. A hiker on a nearby trail heard the crash and discovered him unconscious beside the flattened ladder. Emergency services were called immediately, but despite resuscitation efforts, he was pronounced dead at the scene from blunt force trauma to the thorax, including multiple fractured ribs and cardiac injury. During the investigation, police found his phone, open browser tabs.
No shot! No shot! That's where bro was watching, bro! If someone was a worker in that industry, an adult entertainer and whatever's, right? It often makes me wonder how many deaths have occurred from engaging in your content. You ever think about that? Like, oh God, wait, I hope no one's doing that. Well, hey! I see what you're doing! I'm watching you. And I know where you live.
And physical evidence confirming he had been engaging in solitary sexual activity moments before the fall. The D-cut incident. On July 14th, 2016, a 45-year-old man returned to his small apartment in Eastern Europe after a day of running errands. He set down his bags, turned on a small radio for background noise, and made his way to the bedroom. He retrieved a homemade metal device he had been experimenting with and brought it to the bed.
He said a device that he had been experimenting with? Oh no. Wait, did he say metal device?
Arranging it carefully for use. Based on investigators' reconstruction, he attempted to use the device while sitting on the edge of the bed. The device was unstable and one of the metal parts suddenly snapped under pressure. The broken piece caused a deep cut to his groin. He tried to stop the bleeding, but the wound was severe and involved a major blood vessel. Alone in the apartment, he was unable to get help or call emergency services. Within minutes, he lost consciousness due to rapid blood loss. When he didn't respond to friends who visited later that evening, a welfare check was requested. Authorities entered the apartment and found the scene unchanged. The device broken, and the man lying unconscious on the bed where he had been attempting to use the device. Paramedics confirmed that he had died from hemorrhagic shock caused by the laceration. The obsessed Gooner
So, like, can he get a refund on this or what? Oh, wait, can his family get a refund on that? I don't... Can you sue the company who made that? That's what I'm wondering. Bro, my brother died from a Goonie toy. I want my money. Like, I don't know, that's how I would think about it personally. I don't know.
Incident. On October 14th, 2020, a 33-year-old man woke up in his small apartment in the city. His nights had become sleepless, spent scrolling through videos and live streams of a single adult performer he believed was secretly communicating with him. To him, every post, every glance at the camera was a coded message meant only for him. Investigators later found that he had stopped going to work, cut of his friends and family, and had isolated himself almost entirely. Notes, screenshots, and printed messages littered his apartment, all meticulously annotated with interpretations of the performer's signals. Over time, his fixation had escalated. He convinced himself that he needed to meet her in person to prove his loyalty. That morning, he packed a backpack with essentials, including a handwritten letter and several printed screenshots, and left his apartment. He traveled by public transit to the city where he believed she was filming, following directions pieced together from interviews and online posts. For hours, he wandered near the area, checking security cameras and rehearsing what he would say. He refused to contact anyone for help, believing that any interference would ruin everything. As evening approached, he attempted to climb a fire escape to get a closer look at the studio where he believed she was working. Surveillance footage later showed him pause midway, hesitate, then lose his footing. Emergency responders arrived too late. He was already dead. The medical examiner ruled the death an accidental fall, noting that exhaustion, sleep deprivation, and distraction from obsessive fixation had contributed to his fall. Law enforcement later confirmed that the adult performer had no knowledge of his existence, had never communicated with him, and played no role in the accident.
As sad as that is in fact what we call parasocial, and not in the good way. Oh God, looking at all of these, bro, this is gonna be... Oh man, why?
The Valentine incident. On February 14th, 2014, on Valentine's Day, a man in Bloemfontein, South Africa, was reportedly alone inside his apartment for most of the day. According to local accounts that later spread widely online, he had taken the day off and remained indoors without contact with friends or family. Throughout the afternoon and into the evening, he repeatedly engaged in gooning while isolated in his residence. By nightfall, he had allegedly masturbated 62 times over the course of the day.
I'm sorry, 62? Bro, I get that it's Valentine's Day. I get that you're single and you're lonely and you want to have some fun, but 62 times? Bro, you need medical attention. Not just physically, but mentally. Bro, at this point, you might be put on the list.
Neighbors later stated they had not seen him leave the apartment, and phone calls to his number went unanswered. Concern grew when relatives were unable to reach him later that evening. After attempts to make contact failed, he was discovered unresponsive inside the apartment. Emergency medical services were called to the scene, but he showed no signs of recovery and was pronounced dead. Preliminary reports attributed the death to cardiac arrest following extreme physical exertion. Medical professionals noted that intense and repeated sexual activity can significantly elevate heart rate and blood pressure, particularly in individuals with undiagnosed cardiovascular conditions. The carrot incident.
Guys, I think there's a good thing we can learn from this. The limit is 62.
Carrot incident. On an ordinary evening, a 40-year-old woman entered her bedroom,
this is a
closing the door
woman.
behind her. She moved with quiet focus, retrieving a big carrot from the kitchen. She lay back on the bed and started using the carrot to goon. After a few minutes, an unexpected event occurred. A fatal air embolism formed in her. She gasped, a shudder ran through her body, and then all motion ceased. Alone and vulnerable, she collapsed onto the bed, unconscious. Hours later, family members noticed her absence from normal household activity. Concerned, they entered the bedroom to check on her and found her...
Bro, that's their mom? Dude, do you know how traumatizing that's gonna be? To just be wondering, like, where your family member is. I don't know if it's the mom or sister or whoever, right? And you walk in on them like that. That's trauma right there. I don't think I'd recover from that.
Were completely unresponsive. Paramedics were called immediately, but there was nothing they could do. She was pronounced dead on the scene. The investigation revealed that the cause of death was a rare, tragic air embolism, triggered by the insertion of the carrot during her self-stimulation. No foul play was involved. The incident became noted as an extremely unusual but documented medical case. The Christmas tree incident. On December 18th, 2009, a 42-year-old man was alone inside his apartment in a small city in Germany. He had recently decorated his living room for the holidays, installing a string of electric Christmas tree lights connected to a standard wall outlet.
Guys, I don't like where this is going. Please tell me he's not shoving the Christmas lights up his butt. Like, please, please don't be that.
Neighbors later reported that they saw his apartment illuminated late into the evening. According to the subsequent investigation, the man began engaging in gooning while alone. At some point, he clamped a string of plugged-in Christmas lights to his nipples. During the course of the activity, electrical current passed through his body. Within seconds, the electrical shock disrupted the normal rhythm of his heart. There were signs of sudden collapse near the seating area of the living room, but no emergency call was placed. The following morning, after he failed to report to work and did not respond to calls, a concerned relative contacted authorities. Police entered the apartment and found him unresponsive. Emergency services confirmed his death at the scene. A post-mortem examination determined the cause of death to be cardiac arrhythmia due to electrocution. The toy incident. On November 2025, a 22-year-old woman in Royce...
Okay, I just gotta say this now because we saw this in the other video. Be very careful when you buy products for intimacy. It's just, you really gotta be careful.
Sambu, Kenya, retired to her bedroom, closing the door behind her. She retrieved a vibrating toy device and began using it, fully absorbed in the sensations, unaware of the danger that would soon unfold. Moments later, a sudden loud pop rang out from the device like an electrical surge from a malfunctioning mechanism. The sound startled her briefly, but she refused to let the toy go. A few seconds later, the electrical current coursed through her body, leaving her tense, then motionless. Neighbors, hearing the strange, loud noise, knocked on the door. When there was no response, they alerted emergency services. Paramedics arrived and found her unresponsive with the device still in place. Despite their efforts, she was pronounced dead at the scene from electrocution, and the investigation concluded that the death was caused by a malfunctioning electrical sex toy. The 72 Act.
Where's the insurance claim that happens on this kind of stuff? Is there even a warranty on these things? I'm just genuinely curious about this because that's crazy. How often these things could potentially malfunction. Like, that's actually terrifying.
2 Acts. On April 12th, 2006, a 17-year-old male student from a small town in Uttar Pradesh, India, was found deceased in his family's modest home. He had reportedly told a close friend the previous day of his intention to engage in gooning 74 times consecutively, a goal he framed as a test of physical endurance and self-discipline. On the
Bro, we didn't learn from the last guy, right? The one who died like, what, 62 or 64 times? Now we're trying to 72? Is this the new limit? Did he even make it that far? How do you document how many times he got there? Like, we don't even know at this point, right?
Morning of the incident, his parents left for work at a local textile mill, leaving him home alone to study for his upcoming exams. He retreated to his small room, closing the wooden door behind him. Hours passed. He continued his gooning, pushing past normal physical limits. By the time his mother returned home in the early evening, the house was silent. She found his door still closed, and after receiving no response, she forced it open. He was lying on his cot, unresponsive and visibly distressed in his final moments. A neighbor with a motorcycle rushed him to the nearest clinic, but the doctor could only pronounce him dead on arrival. Local authorities were notified, and an initial police report documented the circumstances based on the friend's testimony and the family's account. The death was attributed to cardiac arrest, brought on by extreme physical exertion and dehydration. The Reverend who gooned.
Bro, the amount of dehydration. You couldn't stop just to get a drink or, I don't know, take a nap or rest? Why do you have to? What part of this is discipline? This just sounds obsessive.
Reverend who gooned.
What?
On June 24th.
The Reverend? Oh, no.
4th, 2007, a 51-year-old Baptist minister named Reverend Gary Aldridge, known for his energetic leadership and his role in growing Thornton Road Baptist Church from a small congregation to over 300 members, suddenly failed to attend normal morning services. When the popular religious leader did not appear in the pulpit, concern grew quickly among the congregation. A church member and a Montgomery police officer went to his residence in East Montgomery to check on his welfare. Around 10 a.m., they entered the home and discovered Reverend Aldridge unresponsive with dildo in his anus covered with a condom. Paramedics were called, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. During the subsequent medical examination, authorities determined the cause of death was accidental mechanical asphyxia. The autopsy revealed that the minister had died alone while pleasuring himself. Reports from the Montgomery Advertiser and later the Smoking Gun noted he was found in an elaborate state of bondage, wearing multiple layers of specialized gear including 2 wetsuits, a face mask, diving gloves, slippers, rubberized underwear, 2 ties, 5 belts, and 11 straps. The head...
Guys, I don't think he was alone. I really don't think he was alone. And that is a lot of equipment to be by yourself. A lot of preparation. Something about that doesn't sound right to me.
Straps. The head incident. On February 16, 1899, a 58-year-old French statesman named Félix Faure concluded his afternoon duties as the president of France. After a series of tense political meetings, he retired to a private drawing room, expecting a brief reprieve from the pressures of office. Late that afternoon, he had requested the company of a frequent visitor to the palace, a 30-year-old Parisian socialite named Marguerite Steinheil.
Okay.
Servants and palace aides remained nearby, accustomed to the president's routine of private consultations. Shortly after they were alone, frantics start giving the president some head. After a few minutes, the quiet of the drawing room was suddenly broken by frantic cries for help. When staff rushed into the room, they found the president collapsed on a sofa, struggling for breath and slipping into unconsciousness. Despite the efforts of his doctors, President Faure showed no further signs of recovery. He was pronounced dead at the palace just a few hours later. During the medical examination, authorities determined that the cause of death was a massive cerebral hemorrhage or stroke. The chicken coop incident.
Bro, imagine getting something so good you got an actual stroke from it. Even way back then, people were dying from Gooner incidents. You ever think about that? That's actually crazy. Well,
At least he died in a way where he was happy, I think.
Stroke. The chicken coop incident. On June
I don't like
27,
this.
2013,
I don't like
a
this.
53-year-old man surnamed Lu concluded his evening in a quiet village in eastern China. Lu was regarded by his neighbors as a reserved and private individual who lived a solitary existence in a modest home. On one morning, neighbors noticed a lack of activity at his residence. By the afternoon, when Lu had still not appeared to tend to his property, a group of villagers became concerned and decided to check on him. They found his front door unlocked and entered the home, which was quiet and appeared to be in order. However, upon entering his bedroom, they found his computer still running, with the screen displaying explicit adult content that had been playing for hours. The search led them to the backyard, where they made a grim discovery. Lu was found unresponsive and completely naked inside a small chicken coop situated just outside his bedroom window.
Where are the
Local
chickens?
authorities were immediately summoned to the scene. During the medical examination, forensic experts reconstructed the final moments of Lu's life. They determined that he was so excited by the porno that for some reason, he went out to the chicken coop to goon. The combination of his significantly elevated heart rate and the sharp drop in temperature outside created a severe physical strain. The official report concluded that the death was a result of natural causes brought on by acute physical overexertion in a cold environment. The beach
okay, at least it didn't involve the chickens. I'm really glad it didn't involve the chickens because I don't know what I would have done if they involved the chickens.
environment. The beach incident. On July 1st, 2021, a 34-year-old woman named Christina Revels Glick was arrested on a Tybee Island beach in Georgia after onlookers reported her engaging in gooning with a sex toy. She appeared visibly distressed as officers confronted her. After initially denying the act, she admitted she had used the device for roughly 20 seconds because she was feeling stressed, expressing deep remorse to the officers as they escorted her away. In the months following the incident, after the body cam video went viral, Revels reportedly struggled with a downward spiral involving drugs and alcohol. The following spring, after she failed to make a rent payment, her landlady grew concerned and went to check on her well-being. Upon entering the residence, the landlady discovered Revels unresponsive in her home. Authorities were immediately contacted to perform a check of the scene. Investigators found no evidence of a struggle or foul play. During the medical examination, the coroner determined that the cause of death was a gunshot wound to the head, occurring on March 31st, 2022, approximately 8 months after her arrest. If you like this video and want to suggest an idea for the next one, drop a comment below.
Bro, Gooners have a hard life.
If you want to see the uncensored versions of these videos, then check out my Patreon where I upload all uncensored content as well as some other videos on there. And let me know what your thoughts were down in the comments below. And there's anything else you'd like to see on this channel because I upload every single day. And with that, thank you so much for watching. And remember, everything reminds you of something. Bye!